Hey, TNA fam, how's it going? So, of late, we have had just a couple of people leaving, effectively, TNA, for, sub reasons. I mean, we had a few people leave before, obviously. Um, so, you know, you but now we've got a couple more. So Danny Luna left like last year, or no, earlier this year. Um, you had what else? I've lost track of how many people, um, like were have gone from the company. So I'm just now, um, gonna look it up. Actually, I'll go back to like people like Killer Kelly and the Rascals, which was that earlier this year? Or was that last year? I think that was like very early in the year or whatever. Or was it late last year? I don't remember now. It's like everything's such a time warp that everything feels like it happened either literally like 5 seconds ago or literally a million years ago. You got Trey back from that, which great, in some ways, but it's unfortunately he's hurt his knee, so hopefully he'll be back soon. We've had a few people that have been on the injury shelf for a long ass time, and it feels like, are they ever coming back, and why are we still got them on the books? I'm probably gonna miss a few here, so if people, uh, you know, want to chime in the comments with somebody that I may have missed or whatever, I would appreciate it because it just helps to illustrate the point. Like I said, Danny Luna granted release. I don't know whether we talked about Myla Grace, but Myla Grace recently been granted release. Steve Macklin just recently granted release. So and there's been a few more here and there. Like I said, I don't think I've covered them all. And you've got like Santana and Slater's deals up soon, and like there is like some talk of like a couple of other potential people like potentially leaving the company as well. There's been a lot of talk about that, and I don't want to just be like here to say doom and gloom or whatever else it is and all that sort of stuff, because like sometimes I don't want to say clearing out the roster is good, but like again, if people don't want to be here at the end of the day, like they shouldn't be forced to being here. We shouldn't be like enforcing that idea of saying no, you have to wait it out or whatever else it is. That sort of stuff you have to um let people decide to leave, um or not, or whatever else it is, because again, you don't want people to feel like, oh man, you're just tying me to stuff and whatever else it is. um yeah, you just don't want people to feel trapped or whatever else it is, or just like your deal is what your deal is, and fuck you, and since you're making a fuss about it, fuck you even more, because now we'll actively try to bury you, or we'll actively try to um do whatever, to you know to punish you because of, you know whatever, all this stuff, blah blah blah, of you leaving, you know but yeah, in saying that we don't want to chain people or like enslave people or whatever, basically to their contract. You want people to be like feel free, but the only real reason they're not feeling like, oh yeah, I'll stick around or whatever else it is because you've got that like lack of like real creativity or lack of opportunity for them. And I can understand some people who, like you, as I said before, a while there, it was like, oh man, some people might be a bit like, oh, I'll just go because I've been here a week and, whatever else it is. And you're not considering, hey, yeah, remember, this is like me back for the first time, like, I don't know in how long, because, hey, visa issues or whatever else it is, especially for some of these people like Myla Grace and Danny Luna and things like that. It's like, well, you've got to take that somewhat into account of saying, hey, hey, what can we do? We can't do anything because visa issues. And that sucks because, again, like, and I've said that so much about some of this other stuff, and I'm not going to go through it again, but still, like, a lot of that is down to the US policies and things like that. So you're not going to get as many international like visitors and stuff like that as well with a lot of these things that you're doing. So you've got to rely on your sole US market. But yeah, no, I think it isn't a good sign in many ways, but like, you can always say, well, there's more fish in the sea. And it's like I say, it's really a weird thing with a lot of wrestling companies. And I don't want to just single out TNA and be a hater or whatever else it is. So, and I don't want to hate on any other company. I'm not going to just say the obvious, but, but still, like, again, you get this sense of, well, I still think people will come to TNA to try it out for themselves. People won't be like, oh, but you had this person leave and you had that person leave and yada, 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 and all this other stuff. Well, if that was the case, then people would never go anywhere, because people come and people go anywhere and everywhere. And people tend to try to gloss over those things more so than going, oh yeah, but TNA this, but TNA that. They love to be like, haterade on TNA, and not to say that TNA is perfect or TNA does the right thing or whatever else it is. I'm not trying to just defend them for no real point. I'm saying, yeah, but they're not, blatantly like being, yeah, this was our whole plan to waste our time and waste our money and waste our energy and waste our effort and all this other stuff. They wouldn't want to do that, but they're just like, whoever has, again, like the creative backstage, just isn't doing enough favors to themselves, because again, like, this comes back to you eventually. Like, if you don't hit enough home runs, and no one can bat 1,000 or whatever else it is, sure. But if you don't hit enough balls out there to try and say, okay, well, let's give you a little bit more time, or let's give you something, or what. And again, I can understand, again, when it's like some of these talent from here, there, or everywhere, or whatever else it is, yeah, sure, okay, I can understand that. But when it's just like guys like Macklin or whatever else it is, and he was a huge integral part to the company for the last like couple of years, it's like, dude, that's really bad. And again, same thing with Santana. And before, it was like Joe Hendry, who's like, we've taken all this time and all this energy and all this effort to build him up and to be our next big star, and now he's just going to WWE. It's like, yeah, it would be great if we could keep him just for another like 6 months or a year or whatever else it was, just to help keep the company's momentum going. And I think like the company, like they were trying a lot more with a lot of the stuff that they were doing coming up to the AMC debut. But now that they've got the AMC deal, I feel like they've gotten a little complacent with some things or whatever else it is, or they're, that sort of stuff. I really don't think that, I know that Sammy Callahan and some other people are meant to kind of be trying to help out, and some people who are like not Danny Luna, who was it? Indy Hartwell, who recently spoke about like she's trying to find her creativity and things like that. So sometimes I think it does come down to the talent, and sometimes I feel like the talent needs to just, like not go off script so much or whatever, but they need to work themselves. You need to try to just be like, okay, let's do something. Let's make something happen. Let's at least plant a seed, or let's at least try to get something going, or whatever else it is, so that at least, you know, like again, I've got something to work with, hopefully, so yeah. But anyway, guys, yeah, I don't really want to talk too long about this, and yeah, I don't know whether you guys do either, but yeah, I mean, we've talked about some stuff here and there, but like, yeah, this is some upcoming, some recent-ish news, I guess, that not a lot of us really like to see or like to hear, and it does make you kind of be like, well, what's going to happen, if this and if that. The thing is, like, you can't worry about those sorts of things. You have to can't worry about the ifs and buts and the candies and the nuts and whatever else it is, the old saying or whatever it is. You've just got to worry about, okay, well, how are we going to get to the next week, and who's our next, bet. And that's always going to be a challenge, because you're always going to have that, AEW and WWE looming, where it's like, well, you could go there and make more money, maybe, but will you be any better off? Like, Joe Hendry's gone to WWE. What's he really doing? Not a lot of anything. Jordan Grace is gone to WWE. What's she really doing? Not a lot of anything. She's just kind of there. And again, I feel like they were just like, WWE were like interested for a hot minute, but then somebody else came along and they were like, oh, shiny new toy, and then completely basically forgot about her, or whatever. And yeah, I just think that it's very much like that, the same thing with AEW, like, and it feels like both WWE and AEW have so much money and so much, talent right now, that it's like, well, there's not even any point in bringing anyone else in my opinion. And we haven't really seen very much of a tease of, like, maybe some ex-WWE people will be coming here. Yeah, okay. Even if I'm saying, hey, before, like, you should manage how many people are coming in versus how many people are going, especially like your younger talent. You want these, like, you don't want just unknown people completely, but you want people to be like, who is this person? I've never seen them before. They look like they're pretty talented. Maybe they'll be the next superstar. Like, Leon was an unknown for a little while, and then it was like, oh, this kid's got something, and he's got a lot of potential. And then he won the X Division Championship, the youngest X Division Championship holder, and nearly held it for, like, well, at least he, like, equaled the record of holding it for the most number of days held. And maybe, like, some of that was like, hey, he was, unable to come into the country because visa issues, etc., or whatever else it is, all that other stuff or whatnot, and all that sort of thing and whatnot, But again, like, he did come back and he was here and he was able to, and some of those title defenses weren't like all that amazing, or some of the stories that were there weren't all that amazing. But again, were they the focus? Well, not to an extent, because again, like, Leon was the focus. Leon was, the guy that you were going, okay, let's make you into one of those guys that you could be, considered. And, like, again, the thing is, like, if some of these talent leave, it gives some of the talent that are there or whatever, or even new talent that they might be like, oh, let's pick this person up or let's pick that person up or whatever else it is, a chance to come into the company. It's just whether the creative, I guess, is going to get behind that sort of thing. I think it's like the management itself, I think, has, like, the good intentions and whatnot, but I do think it's like more of the creative issues or whatever else is going on is the big thing that, keeps coming up and keeps coming to bite things and whatnot. So, like I said, sort of in the, well, I don't know whether I actually said it in the last video, where I was talking about the whole situation with Nick Nemeth cashing in and calling a shot. Like, dude, he hasn't even been on TV in the last like couple of weeks, bro. Like, and like, you know, like the last few things that he's done in the company or whatnot have basically just been, you know, around the tag team scene. You haven't really put him into a singles like position or done stuff with him in that regard. And the last real story that he had was with Casey Navarro, and with his brother being like paranoid that Casey Navarro was basically trying to become a Nemeth or whatever else it was, and all that sort of stuff. I still feel like you might be going down that track where you're like, I don't know whether you break them apart or whatever else or whatnot, but still, I still feel like you could be doing something with those two, because I feel like there's something there that I feel like you're working with. So, but yeah, guys. Anyway, that's it for this one. Hope pretty much, yeah. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you guys will join me again in another one.